Another one of this part, it's a strange part, I think, of this Trump fiasco, Republican catastrophe. The exposure of who Republicans are is by Trump and Pence. Corporate criminals, poison and pollution, that's Trumpy boy. Mafia money, all that stuff, that's Trumpy boy. Pence, he's all the Christian and right-wing nut, racist, extremist guy. Trump, Pence, Trump, Pence. That's really who Republicans are. Really, they're exposed as who they are. Well, one strange part of this, it sticks out because of the comparisons that Republicans tried to do before about a similar issue, and that is Melania Trump, the wife of this amazing criminal, jerk, louse of Donald Trump, as we're seeing. Who's married to the guy? Who? You got to be something like him, right? Well, Republicans, when this was going on with Bill Clinton, he had this affair, and, they get all worked up. The Republicans are holding their hands over their hearts with their Bible in their hand, trying to say, immoral. Oh. And they were attacking Hillary for staying with him. And saying, why you stay with the guy? He had an affair. And then turn around to this, and look what we've seen with Trump. We see him tied to all sorts of prostitutes and extra affairs, and he's paid them off to keep them quiet and all this stuff coming out. And the Republicans don't say anything. Suddenly they don't have the moral concern. Suddenly it's all gone away. That's how they are. Great hypocrites, liars, fraud. That's Republicans. And that's one example. And you still go in and say, yeah, but who is Melania Trump? You've seen the background. She was a soft porn model. You can find the nude, kind of quasi-sexy, pictures of her still up on the internet. You can't wait for years. She's a what do you call it? A prenup agreement. That's what, she isn't really a wife. She's a prenup agreement with Donald. Because you know what there has to be. Think of it. Donnie is telling her, look, I'm going to pay you millions, and all you got to do is have sex with me here and there, and you got to produce a kid, maybe, to make it really down okay with me. And then the rest of the time, you're just getting your money, and you don't bug me. And if you squawk about extramarital affairs and whatnot, and try and divorce me, guess what? She loses. Just think of it, folks. Melania loses all that money because it's built into the prenuptial agreement of how this can dissolve. And then there was all the wacky stuff of how part of this prenup agreement was giving her, Melania, this visa. Listen to this. The Einstein visa. Einstein visa, supposed to be for people who have exceptional intellectual capacity, have developed and shown their, this high kind of, what would you call it, this intellectual ability. And all Melania was, as far as we know, well, she was a porn model. That's it, nice looking figure, and all right, fine. But she got an Einstein visa to get into the U.S. And on top of it, she brought in with her, as part of the prenuptial agreement, she got her parents out of their dump trap in Eastern Europe to come into the U.S. and be allowed into the U.S. as well, as part of the deal. And here they're Republicans and Trumpy boy, talking about immigration, the great fear. right there. How did Melania Trump get an Einstein visa? How did she then get also allowed to bring in her parents and get them okay of being in here too? This is what Republicans are supposedly so pissed about, is that people come into the U.S. and then they bring in, once they're here, then they get to bring in their family members type of thing, getting all pissed off about it. Well, here's Melania Trump. You didn't care about that. It's a strange thing about her. As an example of what Republicans did before and the great hypocrisy that you see they are with the Trumpy boy. You know, the Christian wacko extremists that are Republicans, part of the Bush-Cheney, remember history, when Bush-Cheney were running for president, part of their slogan was they were going to bring back morality to the White House. Because the previous occupant, Bill Clinton, had been immoral by having an extramarital affair. And Bush-Cheney went on to be the most corrupt, immoral gangsters that we had had until Trump and Pence. Great hypocrites. Pandering to this kind of loony, blind, religious wacko base Christians. Don't hear anything. Don't think of anything. Just, are they anti-abortion? Well, okay, then I'll vote for them. And they're all Republican, you know, and that means they're white supremacists. That means they're racist. Okay, good with them. And they got a Bible. Okay. Kind of weird stuff. And one of them, though, is this strange apparition here of this example that is Melania Trump. Here the Republicans were chastising Bill Clinton for having an extramarital affair. They spent $40 million of your taxpayer money to find out he had an extramarital affair and lied about it. That was it. That was it. That was it. $40 million of your dollars. So of course it was just harassment against Bill Clinton and the Clintons. Because Republicans since the 60s, folks, see, you got to look at your history. Republicans went wacko out of the 60s. The 60s really freaked out the racists, with all their civil rights coming in with the 60s, you know, all the racists, you know, they boogied out of the Democratic Party and they were in the Republican Party. Repression. Corporations didn't like the 60s because the 60s started talking about environmental damage. Back then. Recycling. Back then. And those are dramatic changes that would take away profits from these old poison and pollution Republican corporations. It's all started back in the 60s. All sorts of repercussions of the ideas that were going on there of freedoms, civil rights, equal rights, women's rights, even homosexual rights started back there bubbling up finally in the 60s. And ever since that, the Republican Party has been this force to try and repress, deny, maintain the ignorance, the racism, the corporate domination. That's the Republican Party. And that's where it all really took off, the 60s. Reaction to the 60s. With the criminal Nixon, Republican. Then the criminal cocaine trafficking Ron Reagan. And then Bush Sr. starting fake wars and whatnot. Then Bush Cheney. And now the worst of, you didn't think it could get worse, but there he is. Trump, Pence. Just look at the trajectory and you see, wait a minute, it all started really because of the reaction to the 60s. And how they've been continually trying to preserve and deny and repress. Keep women ill, underpaid. Not have a full clarification of their equal rights. Repress homosexuals. Where does that come from? Who cares? That's lunatic stuff to care. So what? Well, Christian wackos in the Republican Party. Freaked out. And of course, all the climate change, environmental science that has been bubbling along here, that is pointing out that all these old technologies, oil, coal, all the energy sources and whatnot, all the chemical plant operations and whatnot, are poisoning and polluting you to the whole planet. That's their money, though. That's their billions and billions and billions. They don't want to give that up. A lot of them will be out of business. That we can't, end the industry. Because they can't face the reality of the world. Climate change. So all these corporate criminals, they've been squandering around in the Republican Party as well since the 60s. And so the Republicans, every time there's somebody young and vibrant, JFK, Bill Clinton, even Obama, young, vibrant, moving ahead, leaving those poison and pollution technologies behind, coming in with national health care ideas, benefit you, clean air, clean water, equal rights. All that stuff coming in, Republicans hate it. They're against it. Look at their legacy. So when somebody comes in, immediately they go into this attack mode of the person. You saw it at the Clintons. Attacking the Clintons. Spent over $40 million of your taxpayer money to find out that old Bill had an extramarital affair and lied about it. Even while at the very same time, Newt Gingrich, Republican Newt Gingrich, leading the Republicans in their morality crusade. At the very same time, Newt Gingrich was having an extramarital affair and lying about it. And when Newt was pushed aside with the excuse that, he just didn't produce the election results. No, the press was honing in on Newt having an extramarital affair and lying about it. At the very same time, he's leading the charge to chastise Bill Clinton. So Newt gets kicked out. And another Republican, this guy named Livingston, he steps in. Well, he didn't last 3 weeks because it came out that he was having an extramarital affair and lying about it. You got to start facing reality, folks, instead of this lunacy of made-up myth and moral judgment that these Republicans try and push on you. And of course, as you know, once Obama came in, not only was he young, he's black. And oh my God, there it was. And you should have seen, and if you were around, you knew. The Republican wacko racism machine went crazy. Right-wing talk radio, all those nuts, Limbaughs and all those racist jokes, racist innuendos, all were chastising Obama relentlessly, while Obama is repairing your economy from the disaster and collapse caused by the Republican Bush-Cheney. But they didn't care about that. They didn't want any of that. Oh, they were going crazy. Moscow Mitch McConnell said his goal was to stop Obama. Not repair the economy that Republicans had screwed up and destroyed to the worst collapse since 1929. No, his agenda was to block Obama and therefore block advantages and information and benefit to you. Because Obama is pushing more of the issue of benefit to you, not corporations. Equal rights for you, not repression for the Christian wackos and the racists. That's where it really took off. So out of that racism and just vibrant lunacy that the Republicans generated during the Obama years, in comes the racist, overt, white supremacist nutcase of Trumpy boy with Christian wacko Pence. There's the Republican Party, clearly defined. Clearly defined. And all of it spinning into the open as amazing and unfolding yet ongoing on here. That's the Republican Party. That's the history. If you look back at the history, you take a look, you see the history, and you can see this lineage. That's like 5 or 6 Republican presidents in a row that deserved jail time. Impeachment for sure, and jail time. That's what's coming. That's what you're seeing. It's a strange entity, and also the clarification, very clear clarification, not only in the kind of holes in the system that Trump is trying to take advantage of to avoid prosecution and conviction when he's dead to the rights. They got him balls to the wall. He did it. And he's trying to spin all sorts of ways in his whole first couple of years here of being in office. Of lying to you, deceiving you. He's got over 10,000 lies that he's told you. He's spinning these things of his executive orders to try and think like that does anything. It's just showmanship. He hasn't passed anything to benefit you. Nothing. He's just riding on the rocket that Obama rebuilt and let loose. And instead of it, he's actually screwing it up with his tariffs. These ridiculous trade war lunacy that he's doing. He hasn't accomplished anything. He hasn't done crap but just wreck things. Find ways to wreck things. So it's a clarification of who Republicans are. It's a clarification of the holes in the system that people can manage to try and filter through their criminality and avoid exposure and avoid going before Congress and having to testify and all this stuff. The Republicans are also exposing here. And here it is, for the benefit of this vast criminal creature, Trump. But you're also seeing the whole Republican Party as well.